Welcome back. All right. Today is Wednesday. It's our 11 o'clock session, and we will be working on our tactics, removing the defender for today. So, again, just a quick reminder we've been through everything else above here. So, why did our opponent do the move they did? That's what Chris is going to be working on specifically. Am I developed? Is my opponent developed? Do they have king safety? Do they have a chance for me to attack their king? Is there free candy? Always, always. As a beginner, we're always checking. Free candy. Don't let it go. Grab it when you can. We've been talking about our chess club, the Niles Library Chess Club, and we're thinking maybe our logo should be pirates. And it should be our slogan should be take what you can and give nothing back. And that's the idea, right? Take all the free candy you can and give nothing back. Arr, I like it. Anyway, so look for free candy. Then we are talking about chasing the king and queen for a purpose of either development or to get a better attack or to improve our piece's position. Then we finished all that. That was week's lessons 1 through 7, or no, 1 through 6, I think. And then we hit lesson 9 this week. We're doing remove the defender. Last week, lesson 8, we had double attack. Lesson 7, we had discovered attack. And lesson 6, we had the pin. Pins, especially the absolute pin, are very common. We have a lot of opportunities to find those. Discovered attacks, hard to find. They are not as common. Double attacks, very common again, something that you find a lot. Removing the defender, not as common. So we have very common, the pin, not so common discovered attacks, very common double attacks, not so common remove the defender. So we're up to remove the defender. The reason we are focusing on these tactics right now is so that it becomes second nature for you. You want to spot them easily, and the best way to spot them easily is to be looking for them. If you're looking for them, you see them. It's kind of like anything else. If you're walking through a crowd and you're looking for a loved one, right? I'm looking for my wife. I'm looking for my daughter, my dad, my mom, somebody. I'm walking through a crowd looking for someone. You are focused on trying to see that face that you recognize. And you find them even in a large crowd. If you're not looking for a loved one, they can sneak up right on you and say, hey, hi. You go, whoa, I didn't know you were here. But if you're looking for them, they can't sneak up on you. So we want to be looking for these tactics. Hello, hello. Thank you. Thank you very much. I try to change clothes every once in a while. It's nice. Hey, Chris. So we're going to be going over these games. During and defenses. Welcome. All right, so let's go over some games, and we're going over actual games that were played by our followers. Hey, Flavio. Hey, King. So we're going to be going over these games, and thank you. We're going to be going over these games looking for opportunities for remove the defender. Now, before we get started, we're going to look at a fun game that Chris played against Keith. And the reason I want to show it is because, as we've seen, as you notice, we've seen sometimes we get caught in early attacks. And Chris, after having had this attack unleashed upon him, he decided to unleash it on his opponent. So I thought for fun we'd look at this game real quick. So what do we get? We get a fried liver attack, right? We get 2 pieces attacking here, and Black has a lot of trouble. Black plays the correct book move, the best move by theory. White follows up with theory, and then Black sidesteps theory. So theory said that Black should have attacked the bishop, and that White would have went here check, would have had a break here, would have went here, and then the bishop would have backed up. And this game actually was played by Wesley So as White against Magnus Carlsen in the last big tournament, the Euro tournament that they just had. But Black does not play by that route, and so White gets the very dangerous full fried liver attempt here, the attack. And now White may have had some other options at this point, but he decided to take the rook, and we travel on. And so we could look for remove the defenders here, but this was just fun to watch. A little bit of a bloodbath. This is maybe not the best move here because it gave away the rook, right? Stepping away just gave away the rook. So this is our defender, and black didn't remove the defender, white voluntarily removed the defender. So better would have been to put the queen here, Chris, so that your one double attack, well, not double attack, but you're attacking the pawn and you're defending the rook twice. So if the queen takes, right, you don't lose a rook, you just lose the exchange, and by the way, you won the exchange over here. So that would have been a little bit better. But anyway, the game progressed, and black missed some opportunities, but then white finally consolidated, and we get a nice endgame by white, closing out, saying, "Yep, I got more material, so I'm just going to trade everything off," and white ends up winning this game. Nice job, Chris. Now let's look at some remove the defender games. I have 3 of them from the tournament we played last night. Okay, Traxler. We'll have to look at that later, maybe, and it's not so big deal. We're not too worried. Magnus and so yes. Okay, so let's look at some removing the defender opportunities. This one is Flavio against Chris. Flavio has white, and we get a really nice opportunity for removing the defender later on in the game. Starting off, and we don't really learn openings as beginners, right? We're not focused on openings, we're focused on just developing. But this one meets our criteria. The London system only moves the center pawns to start and develops the pieces quickly. So we're good to go. Everybody's developing and doing well. Let's see. So I'm peeking at the chat, and you guys can have your conversations, no problem. So we know Flavio knows what he wants to do with that bishop, and it is normal. And we get this move is not in keeping with our developing, right? We want to develop our pieces as fast as possible. And this is moving the knight twice, and it's attacking the bishop, but the bishop's defended multiple times. Now, it was defended once anyway, so not really in keeping with what we're teaching as far as developing fast, not moving pieces twice more than once in the opening. We do get a trade of pieces, and we see that we're continuing development. It's nice. We have opposite side castle. We have queen side versus king side, so it's going to be a bit of an exciting game. So, okay. Again, we're looking for opportunities to remove a defender. Don't see one exactly yet. Now, the queen is the only thing defending the bishop, so if we can get rid of that bishop, by the way, black voluntarily removed the defender. White could have taken, and black was only threatening here, and you do have this whenever you decide you needed it, but you wouldn't even have to do that right away. You could have even tried to trap the queen. Queen is running out of squares to go to, so you could have tried to trap the queen, but no problem. White did not take advantage of that right away, and instead black gets to move back and defend the piece. Now, this is the only piece defending it, so that's one that could be up for grabs, but it's not that one. It gets a little bit later, and we'll see if everyone can spot the opportunity for removing the defender. All right, so white attacks now, trying to attack this pawn twice. That's a nice aggressive play, but it's protected twice. Twice attacked, twice defended. One of them is the king, so we don't care about the king. Can we get rid of the knight? So what is the next move white should make, you think? It should be, let me see if I can remove this defender. Especially since black could have tried to put the question to the knight right away and still have problems, because if you were ever to take, the rook and the queen still would be attacking here. So removing this defender, even in this case, trying to remove this defender would still be a good idea. So that would still be good. But black is just carrying on with his plans, not paying attention to this double attack and the fact that he's got only one piece that if it gets removed, black's in trouble. So white responded again, I think. So right here, white can immediately go to try to remove the defender, because this doesn't lead to anything. The knight can come and protect, or the bishop or the pawn can push. Right? There's no way for black to get his queen in here anytime soon. So I would have preferred that we immediately go for removing the defender. Didn't happen right away. We were watching this game live on stream, and I was like, oh, go for it. Come on, you can do it. Come on. No, didn't do it. So, again, playing, we're here. So, instead, white stopped the advance of the pawn. and white and black just keeps developing, and developing is good. But look how late this bishop got developed. Remember, I was saying that bishop should have been developed much earlier. We had queen moves, and then we had trades, and we didn't have development while white is fully developed, so white can launch this attack, right? White is farther ahead in development, and as we see, bad things happen. So we finally get the threat to remove the defender. Yeah. And black goes for a counterattack and says, I'm going to attack your queen, and then I'm going to win the rook, and you won't be taking my defender because your rook will be gone. But white has opportunities to block, and white does. And white takes again. Now, what would have been interesting, right, would have been to take here. Because again, you want to stop this from happening. So if taken here, the queen takes, then you have time, hopefully, to do something because the queen is no longer hitting. But black didn't. Black moved the queen, and kind of a tricky move. If the knight takes the queen, the bishop takes the queen with check and gets a fork. So what do we say though? Every time we talk about if you're attacked, you have 5 ways to get out of a basic attack, right? And some of you have heard this a lot. Some of you haven't yet, but you probably all know it. So the first way to get out of an attack, we have a knight attacking a queen, because otherwise we're equal. We just traded pieces, so we have a knight, and a bishop. So this knight is attacking the queen. What's the best way? What is the least risky way to respond to that attack? Is to take the piece that's attacking you. It doesn't mean it's always the best move, but it's usually, by far, the least risky way to respond. So black could have just taken the knight. The other choice is to run away. And he didn't technically run away because he's still under attack by the knight. So he could have run away someplace else, right? He could have run away. He could have even come here and create more pressure behind that pin. So the queen would be here, and you'd have 2 pieces attacking the knight, threatening the queen. And so maybe he could have done that. That might have been better. But run away is another option. You can interpose a piece, and there's no way to interpose a piece between the bishop and the knight. And actually, you can never interpose, between the knight and the queen. You can never interpose between a knight and the piece it's attacking, just because knights jump over everything. So you can't interpose. So the 5 things you could do don't always apply to all situations. You can't interpose between a pawn and the piece it's attacking, because pawn's only 1 square away. Same thing with a king. And sometimes bishops and queens and rooks are right next to the piece it's attacking. So interposing a piece is not always possible. You can also defend the piece, but we don't want to just defend the queen, right? We don't want to defend the queen and give it up for a knight. And then the most risky, least favored, the most risky option is to attack something else of greater or equal value. And this doesn't really, right? This is attacking a pawn. It's not attacking anything else. I think it was just a misstep. But at the same time, while it's a misstep, it did allow that if white were to take, black gets to take back. So it's, it's like a trade almost. It feels like a trade. So white says, I don't care. I get to remove the defender. I'm threatening mate next move. So removes the defender and gets the mate in a couple more moves. So nicely done. Very nicely done. We have a very nice example of removing the defender. Yes, trade of queens you're hoping for, but the bet, and I understand, Chris, but unfortunately you moved your queen into a place that was already attacked. You didn't have to move here to get a trade of queens, because he could have just taken here and you'd still get a trade of queens. And you'd still have check. And granted, he'd be attacking your rook, but it's all in good. It's all moving around. So if you really want to trade of queens, I think better may have been to take first and then slide your queen over here, trying to get a trade. So here, and then you could go here and say, let's trade. And if he doesn't trade, at least you're hitting a nice long diagonal, but you're still going to, and he can't come back here for me, but he can still come here to get this threat. But then when he comes, if he were to come here, then you can keep developing, right? Or keep attacking open files and try to get an attack going. I think you would have had a better chance. well, definitely would have had a better chance than where you did go. Awesome. All right, so that was a good example of a of removing the defender. The threat has been there for a while, trying to remove the defender, trying to get rid of that defender, and finally does. And by the way, folks, this doesn't stop it, right? This doesn't stop the checkmate. So removing the defender, great example, nice example, good game, guys. That was a good one. All right. Our next game, we're going to see the top player from the Pershing team. He's 1865 against Chris again. Chris, you're like highlighted in two of these games that we're going over for Remove the Defender. I don't know if that's a good thing, though, in this case, in this scenario. Anyway. All right, so let's see if we can see where we have an opportunity to remove a defender. We did start off with a highlight game for Chris, though, where he actually, where he started off by playing the fried liver and destroying his opponent. So, yeah, we'll give him that. All right, so trade of some material, piece, pawns, and we get a pin, and we're fine. No, remove the defender yet. And we're getting there. We're getting complicated. So we have two pieces here, and we know what's going to happen usually. That means we're going to have to take back with the pawn, and we might have an open king side. The nicety is that the queen is going to have a hard time getting over here to attack because the pawn is in his way. And our bishop is here to protect, so we'll see what happens. Because we see removing the defender coming up pretty soon. So the knight goes back, and we look again, and we say, okay, so now this queen and this pawn are defending the knight. Can I get rid of the queen? If I can get the queen out of here, right, that's a defender, two defenders, two attackers. If I can get it out of here, I can win the knight. Plus, this knight now is attacking my bishop, which is undefended. Bishop is totally undefended. You got to be careful about that. So white quickly, right, has to do it right away, gets the check in. So now black wants to respond. How does black respond? Black responds with the pawn, of course, not with the queen. And you say, okay, so where's the remove the defender? Well, this is only defended once, and it's attacked once. I can remove the defender, and depending on how black takes back, which this, better would have been maybe to take back with the knight. Right? You guys see that if you take back with the knight, because look what happens next. We win the pawn. All we won was a pawn, but we have a nice triple attack. We're attacking the pawn that's undefended, we're attacking the rook that's undefended, and we're attacking a rook that is defended, but it's still, if you remember, this is still winning the exchange. So we have two pieces we're threatening to win, and we have a threat of winning the exchange. So that's a positive for white for sure. And so we remove the defender, and then we get a free piece. So again, which one should he probably, Chris probably should have moved this rook. So at least that way, if white takes, black can take back, and you only lose the exchange. But by moving this rook, the one that was actually protected twice, we gave away the one that was totally unprotected. Humorously almost, black could have said, no, let's just do it again. I still want to attack both pieces. This one still is the one that's protected, and this one is still the one that's unprotected. But obviously it's better to grab the free piece right away, because then black might have said, nope, I'm going to move it this time. And so he's still threatening free candy here. All right, and the reason I said that it would be better to take with the knight on the first take back, so what happens a lot of times, we just reflexively say, hey, I'm going to take back, get my rook on the open file, but we have to look at what happened when that defender left the territory. So if we take back with the knight, or even the king, but the king would be back because we'd be in check. But if we take back with the knight here, we could just move the rook, and we didn't lose the exchange. All we lost was the pawn. So of course that's better. We can lose another pawn, but that's still better than losing other material. Okay, so that was two examples. We have a third example, again, with the best player for the Pershing team, and this time against one of my students, Chess Wizard. And Chess Wizard has been playing really well lately. Been very proud of his play, and very excited about how good he's getting. And so he's playing against Black Diamond. Black Diamond is 1866 now. He gained a whole point. And Chess Wizard, our student, is 1600. Or 16, yeah, 1600. And so it's going to be a close game, right? Maybe. So let's see what happens. Start off with a bit of a unprovoked and probably highly dubious sacrifice. So white is developing. Black develops the queen too early, at least by our rules, right? We shouldn't develop this early. And if you notice, black is the higher rated player by 200 points plus, and he's developing his queen this early. So I would prefer that white just keep on developing, right? Keep on developing. You have opportunities, just develop, develop, develop. And if he trades everything off and you get double pawns, don't worry about it. But white goes for a sack. I don't know what he was thinking. It's dubious at best. And so let's see, white's down now a bishop for a pawn. Bishop for pawn, and we get another sack. So yeah, I can win back the bishop, but I'd be still down a whole bishop and a pawn, right? I'd still be down a lot of material, but black decides to simplify. Black says, let's trade queens. And now, by the way, your knight's under attack and my bishop's under attack. What does black do? Black says, I'll take the knight, and white says, I'll take the bishop. So everybody has nothing developed except we have a king thinking he's doing a bomb cloud run, and we have this king is castled. So white is, in essence, a little better because his king has some safety, while white actually doesn't. I mean, black doesn't actually have any safety, and somehow white has come out of this right with 2 pawns, but count your pieces. Remember, white sacrificed that bishop for that pawn. So 2 pawns for a piece. We're a little shy of what we want. We want 3 pawns for the piece. So now white has to play down a piece for 2 pawns and see if he can get some action going here. So pretty exciting. He finds a way. He keeps searching. Black exchanges material, which is fine. When you're ahead, when you're winning, you want to exchange pieces. You want to trade pieces when you're and not pawns. We don't want to trade our pawns because we want our pawns to become a queen. When you're behind, you want to trade pawns so that your opponent can't queen on you. And then maybe when you trade everything else off after you've gotten rid of the pawns, your one bishop, his one bishop advantage, he's not going to checkmate you with a king and a bishop. So in general, when you're ahead in material, you want to trade material, not pawns. When you're behind, you want to trade pawns, not material. You need to keep your pieces on the board to give you chances to win. All right, so again, in this scenario then, black could have just traded, right? And ended up with a passed pawn coming at you, but he could have traded pieces. Chooses to go ahead and attack an undefended pawn. Pretty hard to get that pawn to be defended. So of course white says, I can find a way to keep my pawn. I'm going to push it, right? Remember, under attack, you can take the piece that's attacking you. Remember the 5 things. You can't interpose with a knight, and pawns, they don't have a lot of options, but they can run away sometimes. And this time the pawn ran away. Black threw in the attack anyway, and this is an 1800 player, and that's why I'm telling you guys, we're not far away from where you want to be. You can be playing against 1800s and doing well. This move is one of those where you go, well, but what are you attacking? You're attacking the rook, but where do you go after that? Why step in there? What does it do for you? I don't think it does too much, or not enough for sure. So white says, yeah, okay, where are you going? Where do you want to go? So now black is going on a journey. Went from here to here to here to here. Probably going to come back to here. That knight, look at all that traveling that knight's doing. And if it was in the opening, we'd say that's horrible because you're moving the knight too much. But in the middle game, it's not as bad. So white says, I'll attack the pawn and maybe take away the square for that knight, right? One less square for the knight, but unfortunately, knights protect knights pretty well. So black says, okay, pawns protect, knights protect knights, but I'm going to take your bishop now. Again, I liked the trade earlier. I'm not so sure I like the trade right now, but hey, white says, nope, I'm not going to let your knight out here, but I do let your knight out here. But in either case, I get a pass pawn, right? So white's happy. I get a pass pawn. Black gets his knight, tries to get his knight into the game, and white says, that pawn is my game. That pawn is my future. I need to get it moving. By the way, white was still attacking the pawn, so black, we would have loved for black to do a blockade of the pawn, but it's not a good blockade yet, and the pawn was hanging. Okay, so that just looks like a square, but look, white says, that's fine. I'm not even going to let you even start there. We're not even going to let you get there. We're just going to keep pushing pawns. Why? Because past pawns want to be pushed. We want to push past pawns. So yes, we're working on tactics. Today we're working on remove the defender, which you'll see a beautiful opportunity coming up. But we still try to cover other things. And the thing we are talking about right now is that a pass pawn wants to push. We want to get it pushed. Now, he couldn't push it without this move first because it would have been attacked twice and it, right, only defended once. So now that white gets this move in, now he's threatening to push that pawn because that's what pawns want to do. And there he goes. We want to move. In case you don't know, when I analyze games, this isn't your game, LLNP. When I analyze games, I don't look ahead. I don't read ahead. I don't cheat, right, to see what they do. I like to be surprised and see if they make the moves that we're thinking of as good moves or not. So, and yeah, LMP, this is not your bad moves. This is a diamond. This is your diamond 006 against Chess Wizard. And Chess Wizard has white. And Chess Wizard is down a piece for 2 pawns and fighting, not giving up, fighting back. So it's a beautiful thing. By the way, the knight could try coming here, right? Because we can't take, we'd lose the rook, and that pawn would have a hard time queening. So the knight, looking for a square, since it's under attack, the knight has to find some place to go. Not going to go here, not going to go here, not going to go here. It could go here, and then after here, attacking the rook, it could actually sit right there and block this pawn in, and that would be a nice little fortress blocking, stopping these pawns from moving. That would have been an interesting move. Let's see if he does that. No. So he doesn't take this one, probably because he didn't realize, and again, 1886, I think he should realize, that if the pawn takes, he loses the rook. So he can't, right? White can't deal with that right away. White has to actually move this rook first, and then he still has time to reposition his knight. So I think this was definitely a mistake by black, right? Had a nice tactical opportunity to mix in there. White is chasing that rook because if he takes, he knows that's a pin. He knows he wins the rook. So we're seeing the pin opportunity rear its head, right? Remember, pins are extremely common. So the knight, well, that's right. What else was the knight going to do anyway? I mean, the knight wasn't going back here again. That's where the knight was going. So white's move kind of just pushed black into making the knight move he was going to make anyway. So I'm not sure that I'm crazy about it, but hey, you got a pawn, another pawn. Remember, he was down. Now he has 3 pawns, and let's see if he still has exactly 3 pawns. He has 3 over here, 7 pawns to 4. He has 3 pawns for the knight. He is equal in material. He is equal in material, and he has an advanced pass pawn, only 2 away from queening, so that's pretty nice. Black, again, decides we could trade off material, right? But it gets rid of the double pawn. White is happy. You just got rid of my double pawn, and I'm likely going to have the possibility to have another pass pawn besides this one. So again, as an 1886, I'm kind of surprised that we see this move, doing this pawn break, trading off material in this way at this time seems a little bit risky to me. But again, the knight could have come here to replace himself here, and again, this would be a nice square for the knight. But no, we get the trade off pawns, and white says, okay, now I have 2 pieces attacking it, you have 2 defending it, and granted, yours is a knight, mine's a rook, I don't want to give it up, but hey, again, have possibilities of saying let's trade because you can't take because the rook will be hanging. So let's see what happens. Knight says, I'm going to jump into the game. I want to get some action. I might, depending on where you put your rook, I might even be able to get here. But let's see what happens. I mean, if white were to make the mistake of putting the rook here, right? Then we get the fork of the 2. That would be nice for black. So black says, I can throw that move in. But white's saying, I can win a pawn. Should say, I can win the pawn. The knight move here, yeah, it forks the 2 rooks, but I get to take with check and win a rook, right? Free candy. So what happens? White takes the rook, and then black says, ops, I can't do that. I can't do that. I'll just lose my rook for free. So takes the rook first and takes back. And now look what happened. Remember, black had 2 pawns over here. He traded both of those pawns in essence for a 1 pawn of white that was doubled. So that was, now white is up even more pawns. So let's see, we have 6 pawns versus 2. We went up 3 pawns to a knight to now 4 pawns to the knight, and count the passed pawns. We have 3 passed pawns. White is now winning this game, solidly winning this game. Now black has some tries, right? Double attack, except this one's protected. Let's see what happens with black. Black goes after chasing the rook around a little bit. And white says, nope, you're not going to get my rook. I check you. I get out of the way. And now this is a mistake in essence because we don't want to be in front of the passed pawns. We want to be behind the passed pawns. But hey, he's playing well. He's coming back. We get this move again, 1886. We need to find a way to get our king activated. So he's doing that. So white could say, nope, your king's going to stay back there because I'm not going to let him out, right? But we don't. We get the second rook move, which always, whenever I see this, by the way, anytime I see a rook move and then right away the other move, you move away from where you move, any piece, bishop, knight, rook, where you move to a square and you immediately move back, especially without even being attacked, it just tells me that you realized you made a mistake. And that's okay. I mean, that's life, right? We all make mistakes. Chess is a game of mistakes. So he made a mistake, decided, nope, I need to be back here. Again, I kind of like this move to keep the king out, but that's me. I'd have to look deeper and see if it's even really, really good, but hey, nice move. By the way, he was, hey, I can threaten your rook and protect my pawn. My pawn would be protecting me, and you can't take because my pawn would queen, and then I'm threatening the rook, and what squares did the rook have, right? Rook only had 1 square, and then you could push the pawn, and then you're threatening to do the same thing with the rook. So anyway, black says, nope, I'm out of here. But again, instead of going after the pawn, seems logical, it looks like he's thinking about checking and getting some possibilities. If the knight goes here first, then we're threatening a back rank mate because the knight would cover this square. And I've talked to you guys about this before, that I remember when I was 16 years old when I first played in my first over-the-board tournament. I had learned the game at 8 years old, but I didn't play in a tournament until 16. Didn't even know they existed, right? Found out about it during the Fischer craze. And I went ahead and said, played in my first over-the-board tournament. I had won, I think I was a 3 or 4 round, and I'd won every game. And I was into my last game as an unrated, in the unrated section. I was killing it. I was feeling so good about myself. I was way ahead material. Something like this, but even more material. And my opponent had a knight here covering this square, but I thought I was free, right? Because I had a square. I was free. I didn't have to worry about back rank mates. And that knight was sitting there though. And yep, they snuck in a back rank mate on me. And it just frustrated me. And it was okay. I was like, oh man, I can't believe I missed that. And guess what though? At 16 years old, I've never fallen for that again. I've never lost the game because of that back rank mate with that knight covering that square ever since. And so we can learn from our mistakes, right? And hopefully never repeat those mistakes. But let's see what happens. White says, I want to trade, right? If I trade, if you take my queen pawns. If you don't trade, I get to usher my pawn down. So white is very happy for a trade. So black now can't set up the sneaky, right? Back rank mate. He has to just go for the check right away. King comes out, and we get another check. We're going to start chasing the king. We're playing chase the king, but black has to be careful because these pawns want a queen, and so he has to find a way. Black, I know white took his time and said, where can I go safely? Now, yes, we have another check, but it's okay. I think he's figuring he could get his king over here, and as long as he doesn't end up in a square, on a white square, far close enough to that rook so that he can get a fork situation, he's okay. So black says, well, now I'll attack your rook because if I take, you take, I can bring my rook all the way back and stop that pawn. But boy, oh boy, look at all those passed pawns coming. And you know, you're probably wondering, where's the remove the defender in this game? It's coming up, and it's a beauty. So please bear with me. We're almost there. So white says, okay, I'll come here and I guess lock up the position, I guess he was thinking. Okay. Black says, I'll attack a pawn. And white says, I'm going to threaten. I'm going to just keep pushing my pawn. And if you take here, I'm going to see what I can do. Now, please take a look right now. Is that a threat? Can I push the pawn? No, the knight would just eat it, right? So what's the threat, guys? What's the threat here? This is a beautiful, beautiful thing. I was watching this game and I was so excited for my student to make that move. I was like, wow, okay, he's serious today. This is beautiful. He's up one pawn in counting of points. Yeah, Chris. Yeah. What a threat. Look at that threat. He's threatening to take the knight, remove the defender, queen the pawn. But will it work, you say? Will it work? Oh man, it's so scary. But we can do this check, right? And if the king moves, which by the way is what happened in the game, the king said, you know, I want to get away from this knight. I want to get away from this rook. And the king said, I'll come all the way over here. Now, if the rook takes, right, pawn takes, we can't queen anymore. So he sidestepped that attack. I thought that was a great job by black. I don't know if he even saw it. In fact, I don't think he did. Let's see what happens. King steps up, right? Remember, that's why he did this, so he can get out. And white, and by the way, watching this game live, I could not help myself. I know my student wasn't listening, but oh boy, we talked about it. We said, hey, you have a majority of pawns. You need to push those pawns. Past pawns want to be pushed. And either one, but why not push the outside pawn? Maybe the hardest one to get to. The king definitely can't get to. It would take a long time for the knight to get to it. Let's push that pawn. And he does. And the king comes out and says, well, now I'm threatening here. Because, again, where did I go? Let's go back here. Thank you. So, again, right, the rook can't take this pawn. It's verboten. If the rook takes the pawn, then the rook gets to take the knight, and then the rook can't take back because you queen. So you'd get a free knight. If the rook takes the pawn, you get a free knight. So this rook can't take the pawn. This rook needs to protect this square with the knight. Wow. White has tied up black with this passed pawn, right? But you saw we were already threatening to remove the defender. So let's see. Black comes up, and white's just pushing the pawn. Push the pawn. The pawn wants to be pushed. Why? The rook can't take. If the rook takes the pawn, you take here. Now you take here with check. You could have taken before. If that rook leaves this file, you could take the knight, and then you get a free knight, if nothing else, because you're going to queen the pawn otherwise. So white keeps pushing. Black comes back and attacks the rook. But so what? We push anyway. Because if you take, we queen. Right? And a queen against a knight and a rook. Hey, and still extra pawns. Let's go for it. So what a beautiful thing and a great lesson for endgame. Chess Wizard just kept pushing that passed pawn. It wants to queen, push it. Let it get the best chance it can to become something of itself. It wants to become a queen so bad. So the king is attacking the rook. You're giving up the rook. What do? You're going to queen next move. So the rook slides over and says, no. I got you covered. I'm attacking you and you can't queen. So again, we have the opportunity to remove the defender. You'll see how it was a draw, Chris. Right there would remove the defender. The king can't come here and stop the pawn. The rook The rook can't come here to stop the pawn because you're in check. The king only has 1, 2, 3 legal moves. And even if he takes, you get to queen. Game basically over. Game basically over. Right? It's a beautiful thing. I think the game would be over. I know Chess Wizard with a queen against a rook. It's going to be tight, but you got another. We're assuming this pawn is gone, but you got another passed pawn to play with. My goodness, you have another passed pawn to play with. You're going to win this game. He's going to win this game. So right now, remove the defender. The only defense against this pawn queening. White had it. Remove the defender. Game should be over. A beautiful. This is puzzle worthy, right? This is puzzle worthy, where we say, make a puzzle out of this one, Lichess. This is a great puzzle, and White unfortunately didn't see it. Didn't see it, which means he probably didn't see it the other time it was threatened and Black saw it and came over and defended. Or we think Black saw it because if Black saw it the first time, but he's probably figuring, I have no choice. I mean, think about it. White should say, wait, he didn't even take, right? He can't take. He has to go defend. He did to go defend. Why did he move the rook over here? Well, because you have a free knight, and in this case it's more than a free knight. You're going to queen, forcibly queen, because you take with check. What a gorgeous opportunity. White didn't see it. White went this way, giving up this pawn, queening, and getting the knight back. And so now if you look, it's just a rook. You have one pawn up. It's a passed pawn. Now, since this is our last game to go over remove the defender, let's see how White should have won this endgame as some of this game pressed on. Okay, both kings trying to get into the game. Notice that White's rook is keeping Black's king all the way over here on this side. So, okay, we press on. Ask for a trade, because then White was hoping, right, which I don't know if it's true, but yeah, it should be, right? This should be pretty much clean, that White can even give up that one and possibly get over here and then eat these pawns, but why go through all that, right? I don't think White's offering a trade at this point is probably the best move. Right now he's winning the game. But Black says, no, I'm not going to go for the trade. And White again says, I'm going to keep your king out of the game, which was a very good move. Very good thought. Now we throw in the check. I'm not too sure about the check. I would have liked to seen him go here and attack the pawn. I really would have liked to seen him go here and attack the pawn. But he throws in the check, and Black says, okay, I can get to your pawns. And then he goes after the pawns. See, so again, I think he should have went after the pawns right away. Would have given Black one less move. We're giving Black opportunities. We're helping Black move the king closer to our pawns. So here he had the opportunity to also do this, making this pawn protected by the rook. And then he can look at hopefully winning this. And he should have come out of this. He's up a pawn right now. He's up a pawn right now. He should have come out another passed pawn ahead and been winning. But he doesn't, and he gives up both pawns. All right, but still, he's winning. So how does he win this game? Everything is already in place for him to win this game. This king, which is, remember, an extremely strong piece in the endgame, is out of the game. He's on the H file. Your rook is on the G file. That king can never get into the game. So now you just have to start working your king and pawn down, and you could do it from a distance. You can have the rook help you from a distance. So when you need it, the rook can come in and help you from a distance. And that's how you win this game. Pretty straightforward, pretty handily. Just start getting your king into the game, right? Get your king in the pawn and start moving down. But White doesn't do that. White actually releases the king and comes all the way over next to his own king and pawn and releases the king, and the king rushes over. The king rushes over. I need to be involved. The king is rushing over, and the king got close enough, right, to give him, look, again, letting the king get closer and closer and closer now. And from here, how do you protect the pawn? You've lost your advantage. You've lost the pawn. So the lesson there, the quick, easy lesson is, besides the fact that he probably could have had a second pass pawn, doesn't matter. This should be winning if we get our king and keep his king out of the game. And if we come here and he decides to attack the rook, we can move wherever we want, guys. Move far away. Stay out of the way. And if we start getting checks, you get to come forward. Right? Okay. I want to, you know what? I'm not doing this the best way possible because I want to get forward. So, my bad. We would have to possibly get behind the pawn. Okay, there we go. And now, how do I get to move forward? Well, I've got a rook. I'm threatening to push. So I can get this going. I can practice a whole lot more myself on the end game, but I love keeping the king out of the game and then getting this pawn to start pushing with the help of the rook. That would be good. Definitely don't want the rook here. If anything, I want the rook here so I can push, get the king up, and then maybe go back to keeping the king out. I don't have to keep the king all the way over here. I just need to keep the king away from my king and my pawn. And then I just keep pushing down, because when that rook has to give himself up for the pawn, we know we can win with a king and a rook. Sure, king, possibly. Yeah, the king, I don't think king played in the tournament. So king, you'd have to tell me your, and I have about 15 minutes before I have to get back to work, so you'd have to give me do you have a Lichess name? The tournament he's talking about is the one we had last night. And no, king wasn't in it. You could have joined our team, king, and played in it if you're in our team. I don't even know if you're in our team for live stream. I don't know if this is your first time visiting. But king, you would need a Lichess game for me to look over. All right, so those are the 3 games I found for discovered attacks. Not for discovered attack, I'm sorry, for remove the defender. And this one was, to me, just a beautiful opportunity. Again, this one to me is extremely puzzle worthy. And so the way that you can do that is you can actually take this position and save it, and then you can enter it as a puzzle in Lichess. You can make your own puzzles. I do it for my students. You can make your own puzzle out of this position in Lichess. And you would do it by, normally I would take this and put it in an analysis board or the board editor. So I'll do that for you guys so you can see how that works. So I take it into the board editor, and here's the position. And I want to make sure it's white to play, and it is. It's white to play. Now, we could back up one and do black's move and then say it's white's to play, but let's just make it simple. So it's white to play here, and I'm going to push the same thing from here now, though, from this position back into a study. So I'm going to push it into a study, and I'm going to push it into remove the defender, same study, but watch when it comes up, and I'm going to change some of the settings on it so that it works out for us to be an actual lesson. So I'm going to go full screen for you so you guys can see that. Oh, you are on the 4Stream team, but did you play in the tournament yesterday, King? I don't remember seeing you there. If you played, then we should have a game from there. But otherwise, you'd have to just tell us what game you want to use. So I can hit this gear wheel, and I can change the title. So I could say over here, white to move, right? And we know it's remove the defender. I can title it anything I want. Orientation is white's orientation. Analysis mode, we're going to make it interactive lesson. Okay, and then we're going to save our chapter. And now, because it's interactive chapter, over here it says, help the player find the initial move with a comment. Give the player tips so they can find the right move. And so what we'll say here is, and we could have done it even better where we could have shown, like I said, the last 2 moves. Last move for white was A7, and oops. For white was A7, and black responded. Rook on e5 to a5. Now, that said, again, if I'm going to make this into a real puzzle, I would probably want to put the rook here and the pawn here and say white to move at that point and see if you you even get that move in. So that would even be better, and we could do that. But so the idea is that you do this and then you put in the right move right here, and so that shows up as the right move. And when any other wrong move is played, you can give an explanation of why it was wrong, right? So you could talk through it. So what happens then is you can give this to your student in a study or yourself. You can even come back here and do this yourself in a study, and you would do a preview mode and you say, okay, let's see how it looks. So I'm going to play this one again. This is the way it would look to the student or to yourself. What would you play in this position? I don't know. Get a hint. Oh, the last move for white was this, and the last move for black was that. That's not a great hint. Thanks, buddy. But you can write your own, as you can see, you could write the hints. And then if you find the wrong move, remember it says retry, but I could have given a message that no, that you had better. Sometimes you just see that as it easier. You could just say you had better. Okay. But then if you get the move right, it says, yay, congrats, you found the move. All right, so any questions about that? Because I'll definitely make one, but I think I'm going to delete this chapter real quick. Because I think even better would have been the move before that. So if I was going to make a puzzle, I would want to make a puzzle from this move right here. This is where I'd want to start the puzzle from. Black's last move was there. And I'll put it to the board editor. And then we'd want to be able to show multiple moves. So, but actually, I think right now you could just take this for white to play and take it over there. And it is white to play. So again, you could take it to the study and we'll put it back in and remove the defender. And you can actually, like I said, you can actually show the previous couple of moves if you wanted to also. That's a way to do it too. And so that one we can make into an interactive. All right. Let's see, what do we get here? Lichess, okay. HTTPS2, did you get the link? I do. And I do have a few moments. So let's see if I can plug that in for us and we'll give it a shot. And I take it that's a big O. Let's see if that gets us to your game. There it is. Oh, Krish. Gotcha. So, Krish, you missed the tournament the other day, though, right? We really could have used you. I was hoping you'd show up. You had signed up, but I know you couldn't make it. Yes, studies are excellent. And this one I've made, the study that I made for you for removing the defender, it is a public one, so anyone can get to it. Yep, Chris, you just needed some more players. Chris, you were all by yourself there for a long time. All right, so let's see. Chris, you're white, and your opponent plays the Sicilian, and you're playing fine against the Sicilian, and he's playing known variations. I actually don't mind this at all. I don't want you coming all the way back, but you do have to be aware that you're giving tempo away. So remember, if you think about the fact that your opponent's going to play Chase the Queen, right? Because that's a game we like to play, and we teach that. And so your opponent will have the opportunity, not that he might want to grab it right now, but he might want to play Chase the Queen. So you have to think about that when you decide where to put the queen. Other squares you have to think about is that I might be blocking my bishop's exit. And that's an issue about this whole situation in this opening. A lot of times when you're playing against this, what's your normal knight? We normally talk about developing the king side first. So we want to develop the knight because it also hits that square. So if you were to do that, you could take back with the knight. This knight doesn't hit any of those squares, and so you're not fighting for the center. So I prefer use this knight instead and get this bishop out, and you have here you can fianchetto. But if you think about the difference, if it was this instead of your other knight, you could take back with the knight and not bring your queen out early. So again, I teach not to teach openings, to start. And Krish, right now you're 1170 with a question mark, so I have no clue what your actual rating would be. You could tell me what your rating is maybe on chess.com. But what we want is to develop our pieces, and that's a fine move because you developed a piece. But I prefer that you develop the king's knight and the king's side first. Not that you have to castle the king's side, but that way you can castle quickly if needed. So normally we want to do a knight, we want to do a bishop, we want to do a knight, we want to do a bishop, just as a normal way. Well, you were playing in a 10 plus 5, so that's a rapid. So like say what's your rapid? Okay, that's fine. So yeah, so 1136, I still don't want you learning openings. I want you playing based on opening principles, and you're doing fine because you developed a piece. But again, I'd rather you start with the king's knight as a general rule anyway. But in this case, specifically, your knight is protecting a pawn that's not under attack, which is like a Vienna-esque setup. But this position probably calls for you to combat for this square first. Okay. So this is, again, in our principles, this is bad because our queen is out too early. And so he gets to develop the knight with tempo playing chase the queen. Your queen moves. He gets to push the pawn and starting to talk about releasing the bishop. And this bishop is the one that's looking unhappy. This pawn needs to come out, or this pawn, he needs to get this bishop developed. But again, and this is saying this is okay, this is normal for him, but it's going to be a problem. You get the bishop out, which is good. And now if the knight attacks, which he can't go here anymore, then you could probably just drop your bishop even to here, protecting the pawn and creating a battery, and that's fine. All right. So too many pawn moves, in my opinion. Now again, this is normal for the Sicilian, but this, too many pawn moves. So your opponent is 1726 with a question mark. So I don't know how good your opponent actually is using the rating. Which rating can I learn openings? Oh, okay, Chris, you can learn openings anytime you want. If you're my student and you're doing this where you're just learning the principles, we're going to get you to like 1200. And when you get to 1200, 1300, then we'll start talking about giving you some openings. And yeah, I don't know if that's a joke or not, but Magnus Carlsen still didn't learn them, doesn't really study openings. I don't know how much he studies. I played against 2,000 over-the-board players, 2,000 over-the-board players who swear that they don't ever study openings. They studied only tactics. Now, they had a good understanding of other principles. So I'm teaching the principles, basic opening, but also we're going to be doing middle game. We're going to be doing end game principles during these lessons. And once you get all those principles down pat, then you can start playing with openings. Now, one of the things that I want you to do before you start playing with openings is if you're an E4 player, I want you to start playing with D4. But I don't want you to do it until you get comfortable with the principles of opening play. All right? So if you get the principles for opening play down pat, then we're going to expand your horizons. If you've always played D4, we're going to try some E4. If you've always played E4, we're going to play some D4. It's a totally different feel to the game. Your attacks and everything else happen differently. So we want you to be able to experience both sides. And once you've experienced both sides, we'll get a better feel for what you like and what you don't like. So then, therefore, we can pick an opening for you to start studying that makes sense with your style of play. Otherwise, you're going to pick openings just because you see other people play and you think it's good, you think they do well, and we don't know if it fits anything near a style of play for you. All right, so back to this game because I got to get done, right? Yeah, okay, Mr. Morto. If you're learning per the way I'm trying to teach, we would get you playing some D4 openings just so you could find out if it fits your style. So, good part of this one, Krish, good part about this one, or King in here, the good part is that, yes, you're being aggressive, and I like it. You know, you have this, but better would be, I take it this is what you said when you're looking for a queen trap. The queen will be able to come here because your bishop will have left. Your queen could be able to come here because there's nothing attacking that square. But I really like the threat here. Queen has to move, and we just said it's going to go here, here. And then the knight hops in, checking the king, removing options for the king to move. And, right, the king has to step up or come over here. And if it comes over here, you get the rook for free because it's a discovered attack. Just, oh yeah. King, this was a very nice start. I mean, it's aggressive. Now, what's wrong with the move? The only thing wrong with the move is that you move the knight twice in the opening. But we have said repeatedly, if you have tactics, if you find an opportunity for a tactic, you're allowed to break the other rules. So you're breaking the rule of developing quickly because you're looking at these weak dark squares and you have a tactic. Now, if you were playing a slower game, this one was 10 plus 5, so you might have had enough time. You need to say, well, before you even make this move, you have to say, yeah, I want to make that move because I like this opportunity. What can black do about it? Can black do anything to get out of this? Can black save himself? And you'd have to look at all these possibilities, right? Check here, and if you take, the knight takes back, so then maybe that ruins your fun. Queen here with check. And what do you do then? Do you push a pawn? Do you put the bishop back? And then that kind of ruins your fun because your bishop isn't coming here yet. Don't know. You have to look over and say, oh, the knight just comes here and gives himself up loses a pawn. Is that okay? You got to think about what black is going to do in reply before you decide to break the principle. But again, if you see it and you like it and you analyze and you think you're good to go, then you can do that. All right, so he went with the check. That was one of them. Like I said, I don't look ahead, so I just looked at the possibilities. He went with the check, you block with the pawn, and he brings the bishop out. Now, the bishop out is kind of telling because now you still can put your bishop, you could still do your bishop move, and then we have to see how many squares did that queen have after that move. Well, he has here because it's a trade, because it's protected. He doesn't have here because of the bishop. He can't take your knight because of the pawn. He does have here. So he only has these two moves, really, from the move to if you come here with your bishop. So, valid that you could get that, but the problem is your fork, the bishop is protecting against the fork. So he found a way to counter your attack, but that said, this bishop is blocking the pawn. He murphed this bishop, right? He murphed the bishop, so the bishop's not coming out, not for a while. So you're still okay. And this bishop isn't doing anything but keeping you from doing your fun move. So you're still okay. Life is good. You don't have to worry about anything. Actually, queen here, he loses a pawn, right? Forgot the fact that the bishop was helping. So, maybe this move is good because this is only really good square to go to. And then, like you said, it looks like you might be able to get close to trapping this queen. It might be worth it to see what you can do. So let's see what happened in the game. All right, so this move also works as far as trying to chase the queen around, but maybe the bishop move would have been a little better. I don't know. I kind of like the bishop move. He only had, what we saw was 2 squares. Now he still has this square where he'd lose a pawn, but he also now has this square and this square. So that one, I don't know. I think maybe the pawn keeping that square away for the moment might have been better to use the bishop first. Not sure. You can look deeper into that if you like. There still is a fork on b6, winning a bishop. Well, you mean with the knight. I take it you mean with the knight. It doesn't really win the bishop because the rook just comes over and still protects the bishop, if that's what you mean. But we'll keep going. All right, so queen comes down. You can let me know, Mr. Morto, where you were seeing that. I know it wasn't this move. It was probably the move before. All right, so we get the bishop here. And so again, you have to decide what do you have going here. I don't like the bishop here. You're kind of giving up all the momentum you had. If you want to play chase, here would be a time that you could play chase. Now we win the bishop. Is that what you meant, Mr. Morto? Okay. The moderator came back. This is interesting. First time I had a moderator. and it wasn't sure about what you meant by bish, so it said, "Hey, that's bad." But there you go. Yeah, so that looks good to me. That looks like a good possibility where you can get something going. That would have been exciting. I don't know if that's what you meant, Mr. Moto, if you were looking that far ahead. I don't know how you look that far ahead because, oh, I am showing everything, aren't I? So we can go back to this view so you guys don't see everything. I don't know if you were looking ahead. So here I do like the possibility of attack the rook, right? I mean, you're threatening a rook for a knight. So bishop could take here in theory, because well, no, you could take back, and the knight could take. You could still take back. So no, that just works. I think that just works. And then this threatens the queen and the bishop, and there's no way for the queen to protect the bishop. And when you take the bishop, it's check. So again, you don't have to worry about in between moves. I'm liking this. That would have been nice. All right, so back to bishop to c5. And so I'm not crazy about bishop to c5. I know if he takes, you're figuring that you get this fork in sooner or later, but let's see what happens. I like the other move better. There is no reason that he doesn't have to take, so he doesn't. He just backs up and still protects that square, right? That's what he's doing. Now it looks like you can trap that rook, though. I mean, boy, you just have so many nice opportunities. So your attack, that knight move, turns out to be definitely worth not finishing development. Look, we still have two pieces not in play, but black has all of his pieces stuck on the back rank except for these two. And now you attack the rook, and if the rook moves up, you get to take a free bishop and discover an attack on the rook. Life is so good. Life is so good. You'd be winning that way too. That looked really good for you, King. Really good. So instead, we get queen over to here attacking a pawn. So we're losing the thread. We had all this pressure on the queen side. We were just dominating on the queen side. I think you needed to just keep dominating on the queen side. Now, granted, if you get this pawn, you're threatening checkmate. So I can understand the idea. We get a pawn push to save our pawn, and we get bishop to c4. So we develop the bishop finally and have dreams maybe of keeping the queen over here. But right now the queen can come out and attack the rook, attack the pawn. Nope, it's protected. So talking about removing the defender, if black can get rid of your knight, that's a nice fork there, right? Got to get rid of the queen too, sorry. Queen is hiding. All right, so let's see anyway what happens next. We do get the move against the rook. We can't take a pawn. The queen is all by itself. I don't know how you lost this game. I have no idea how you lost this game. Oh, white won this game. Okay, we're looking at a win. As well, you should have won. So I will tell you also, Chris, that if we're going to analyze games, I usually recommend we analyze a loss. Because while we looked at some things you could have done better, we're only really analyzing, we should be analyzing all the things black did wrong. Because black lets you basically get into the situation where you got a checkmate out of it. And why? Look at all of black's pieces undeveloped, and you did great. You brought out, you took advantage of his lack of development, and you had a lot of mate threats coming along. So this pawn push, yeah, again, not developing a piece. I mean, it looks like I'm trying to get the queen out, but I mean the bishop out, but I'm not developing a piece. Better would have been maybe develop the knight, get the knight out of there. But yeah, this pawn is dangly dangerous. So yeah, in general, Chris, in the future, let's pick a game where you lost that you need to analyze. This one, I just feel like we're celebrating your good play and not learning much. And it's you can learn stuff. We talked about how you had earlier attacks and possibilities, but really that we're only showing how you didn't develop, but you took advantage of the fact that you had a weak squares to attack, and then your opponent did worse than you on development. My gosh, didn't develop anything, and you eventually only have one piece left to develop. Neither one of you castled, so we're missing king safety also. Oh, okay, Mr. Moto, you could have you could have trapped my queen at some point. Excellent. So, one of the things I'll tell you, Okay. So one of the things I'll tell you is that I don't. If you notice, I did not use the computer to analyze. I like to analyze first with us thinking through moves and why we do moves because again we're learning principles. So I am not actually curious at all what the computer says the best move is in a certain situation. I don't care. I want to see, did you miss principles? Did you miss free candy? Did you miss opportunities that should have been there that you should have seen? So that's how I analyze the game first. And if you want to just find best moves, then the computer's there for you. You can use it. I try to get my students not to use the computer for analysis. I think it makes it lazy for them about thinking about and analyzing and finding moves on their own. And then to add to that, sometimes the computer gives you moves that none of us can fathom, right? It's like, why do you do that? And the computer doesn't tell you why this is the best move. It doesn't tell you the principled reason for that move. It just tells you that was the best move. So, personally, I don't like to use the computer to do my analysis. Now, if you're down to like, what's the right move in this situation? I'm going to get mated. I missed it, or I had a mate. Then yeah, that makes sense to use the computer for that purpose. But just analyzing your whole game using the computer, I don't do it. I don't like to do it that way. In fact, if I'm going to do anything, I would use the opening database before I do that, just to see what most people played in a given situation. And I bet almost this game we're looking at here may have never been played with these exact moves by anybody ever before. Ever. And that's one of the great things about chess, is that you could still say that and you could find a game that maybe no one has ever played the same moves that you played. That's pretty cool. All right. Are you look for a national master? Am I looking for one or looking to become one? What do you mean, Chris? And then I will be signing off pretty shortly. And Mr. Morto, were you talking about our game where you lost? Are you talking about my game with you? Or are you talking about your game with someone else in chat? Oh, actually, that's funny that you asked that, Chris, because I originally didn't have a goal to become any title at all. But then I found out recently that you can get National Master by just actually achieving a rating. So if you have the 2200 USCF rating, you get to be a National Master. So yeah, if after COVID we start playing tournaments again, that would be a mark I can shoot for. Right now I'm around 1958, 1960 or something. I'm in the 1900s. I've been very close to 2000. In quick chess, I'm actually over 2000. And that's an expert, but the national master at 2200 would be something to shoot for. Yeah, I like goals. I like having things to shoot for. Okay, Mr. Moto. Yeah, and I believe you again. So we can look at that game some other time if you like, but yeah, I'm sure you'll find a lot of ways if you look at the computer that you can beat everybody you've played, including me. Definitely chances. And the fun part is, though, you're playing it over the board, and there's the pressures of the game, and you got to find the moves at the time. And nobody on this stream probably finds the best move every time. If any of us find the best moves every time, you're cheating with a computer. So yeah, you'll make mistakes, I'll make mistakes. We'll miss mates. We'll miss one move mates. We'll miss opportunities to win material. And it's good to go back and look at it, but I want you looking at it for the principle behind it, not, oh, I should have done that. I would have trapped your queen. But then, do you think you'll ever have that exact position again? And if you do, a year from now, 2 years from now, you get that exact same position deep in the game. I don't know how deep it was, by the way. But if you get that exact same position, will you even remember how to trap the queen at that point? Okay, so things to think about. So the remove the defender, it's not correct. We can't play it. So you're in the study. And I don't know that I finished. I just started loading. If you're talking about the interactive one, I didn't finish loading it. I just put it in there. I don't think I made it fully interactive yet. So let me just check real quick. But I gotta go, guys. So let me take one quick look. Remove the defender, and all the other ones were just games to review, right? Chris, I think you're in 2 of those games as an example. The last queen move, was it good? Your last queen move, checkmate? Yeah, I think it was really good. Checkmate's a good move, if that's what you mean. I don't think it's what you mean, but yes, doing the checkmate would be fine. So chapter 4 is the one that we're saying is could be a problem, and you see I haven't loaded anything. So yeah, there's nothing for you to see yet. So this would be not the right move. Sorry. So I have to remove that one. Delete from here. Okay. So the correct move would have been here, and then black moves here, and then we said that white moves here, and whatever black does, game over, right? Because then we get the queen move. So now that I've done that, you should be able to now play through those moves. You should be able to try it. All right, so give it a shot. We'll rename it. And it's an interactive lesson, and white to move first. Okay, so yeah, see if that works now. Yeah, you sack your bishop for a checkmate. That's always good. I'd have to look back, and I gotta go. But yeah, happy to look over it with you again. But again, you want to analyze a game. We can look at games you win, but usually those feel good and maybe tweaking. A lot of times we win because of our opponents making a mistake. Like Mr. Moto was saying, he could have tracked my queen. He probably would have beaten me that game, but he maybe made a mistake and missed it, right? So, Flavio, let me know if you can. Okay, good. Yeah, it's just I had no moves in there, Flavio, so there was nothing to actually work. But that's how you can do it. So feel free to grab that, put it in. You can clone it into your own study. You could play with it. But that's how you can do it. And I would make those kind of interactive moves from your own games. And that would be where you could use the computer, right? You could go through your own games, go through the computer, find out every place where you're making the wrong move, see if it's moves that you think, yeah, I should know that. This is how I should think about it. You can make your own puzzles, and you can make a whole set of puzzles that are built from your own games, the way you play your mistakes. Now, if you're under 1,000, I don't think you need that right now. I think under 1,000, you need to focus on just the basics and the principles. If you're 1,300, 1,400, 1,500, and you're trying to get better, 1,800, 1,900 like me, then I think, yes, now it makes sense. Go ahead and do that. Make sense? All right, guys, I've got to book. I've got to hop out. Anybody know anybody online that, well, you guys are going to play some games. I don't know if you wanted to raid anybody. It's always nice to find somebody if you know of anyone that we could raid. So I'll just see if anybody I follow is on right now. And not too many. Andy Starr is a pretty good one. Clean. And she's, if I remember correctly, she's overseas in Europe. She's teaching. Miss O Brothers, what do they do? But you know what, Flavio, you've helped me out before. You've been right, and we'll just punch over there, and I'll just trust you. So remember, though, I always try to find people that are clean of mouth because we want it to be family friendly. Why? Because I have a lot of youth that will chime in and watch my stream because of my students. So just remember that when you're looking for me, looking for possible people to bounce to, please pick ones that are pretty clean. You're the youth? Not anymore, Chris. You're 18 now. I don't think you count as the youth anymore. No, I have 8-year-olds all the way up to 15-year-olds that might be watching us. So, all right, let's see if I can get my my computer to behave. Now it's acting strange. So, if I turn off that phone, maybe it will let me do this raid. But if not, Oh, Suda's online? Always like doing to him. Yes, I agree. Suda is very clean. And we're working on our collaboration. I like Suda. I like the way he teaches. I teach differently, but I like the way he teaches also. I do recommend him. I like his site. So, yes, let's push him to there. Definitely. Oh, all right, King. You're a youth, 16. So, again, I like to make sure we keep our language clean. Please give me the opportunity, the power to raid. My computer's not being nice, not allowing me to write in chat yet. And I need to be able to do the command in chat. I don't actually have any other way to get the command done. And it's just being not friendly. Slow. So I'm waiting. I want to bounce over to Suda. That would be nice. And I gotta remember how to spell his whole name now too. So I can find that though. In fact, I remember if I think he did end up making a No, I don't see it. I don't know that he made a. I thought maybe he had made a. Thanks. That'll work, Flavio. Thank you. As soon as I get to write something in chat, that'll work. Oh, you think so? Okay. What could I change in the layout? I'm using only photos that are in my hard drive. Even I don't even go to the internet for the photos that I use, so it's less pull there. Let's go to one of our other displays. See if it'll let me in. Less intensive. It looks like you are right. There it goes. There you go. So I could just change to one of my other displays maybe that has less things going on. I like it. You're a smart man, Flavio. Smart man. US chess. Okay, Suda C US chess. Excelente. All right, there's the raid gonna get started. Thank you so much. You guys are awesome. I love it when you can figure those things out. You will like Sudak US chess. Plays games against you. He'll analyze the games afterwards. I think you'll like it a lot. So good luck. Have fun. We'll see you guys later.